Y'all, we need to talk. Welcome to the Wright Brothers. I'm Trey Felder. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Y'all are our community, the reason why we do what we do. We love interacting with y'all. Tag us in anything you see on social media. Look for us on Facebook. Of course, look for us on YouTube. And who knows, we might just talk about something you mentioned on the show. Now, without any further ado, let's get down to today's episode. Fake news reared its ugly head again in classic ways over the past couple weeks, most notably within the al-Baghdadi story. Now, you remember good old AB, right? He was the top terror target for U.S. intelligence and a noted purveyor of Islamic-inspired terror in the Middle East and against the Western world, and austere religious scholar? Yes, you heard that right. In a now infamous headline, the Washington Post went way out of their way to soften the blow a little bit for a noted scholar who was so scholarly that he made sure that he passed down all of his knowledge to his progeny before nobly facing justice. Just kidding. He ran into a cave, soiled himself, whimpered, and then blew himself and his kids up. That's what really happened. Now, on a personal note, I'm sure all of us remember pretty much exactly where we were when we heard the news that Osama Bin Laden had finally been captured. No, we don't do that. He'd actually been killed and brought swiftly to justice by the Grim Reaper himself. I was actually here in San Antonio attending tech school at Lackland Air Force Base. And let me just tell you, it turned a quiet night into a full-on block party. I'm telling you, the dorm compound I was in just erupted in cheers all over the place. We had people bringing out boom boxes. We had people with music. We had dancing. We had singing. We had drinks. We even had like instructors looking the other way so that we could all imbibe just a little bit in full celebration of what just went down. Because let's face it, the most wanted terrorist in the world meeting such a grisly end was always going to be good news, no matter who did it. And you remember the news coverage from that day and from the weeks and months that followed was filled with nothing but unfettered praise, and justifiably so, for President Obama making such a gutsy call in going after the top terrorist in the world and deciding to go in and bring him to justice. Now, I know I probably shouldn't have been this way, but I'm a relatively trusting person. I fully expected that in spite of the media's open antagonism against President Trump, that they would, put that aside for just one day, let him have a win, celebrate him bringing dangerous terrorists to justice, and, generally celebrate about something that was good for America. Boy, was I wrong. Instead of praise on every network, I saw qualms and qualifications from just about every talking head that I laid my eyes on. From people nitpicking over, did the terrorist dude really whimper before he died? Do we have confirmation of that? To some people just questioning outright, we maybe shouldn't have even killed him at all. Maybe we should have just let him go scot-free and not risk destabilizing the region. Really? The cherry on top of all of this was Jim Acosta and even the New York Times, as Andrew Klavan likes to say, a former newspaper, responding in total seriousness to a meme that the president shared, a Photoshop meme, obviously Photoshopped, of him placing a medal around the neck of the service dog that participated in the operation. They came back and were fact-checking the president, saying, well, the dog really wasn't at the White House. It was laughable what the left has become. I know we like to use Trump derangement syndrome as a bit of a meme and just kind of a jab at the left. But in this instance, when you are criticizing a Photoshop meme of a dog getting a medal with a paw print on the front, that's full-blown Trump derangement syndrome, my friends. However, before we all get on our high horses about fake news from the left-wing media, let me crash the party and say we had a little bit of that on the right side too. I'll explain. By now, I'm sure we've all heard about LeBron James's comments about the Hong Kong protesters and how his comments actually skewed more in favor of the Chinese government that's actively suppressing freedom and has a sordid record of human rights violations against these same protesters protesting for freedom and democracy, again, in Hong Kong. And let's just say that those comments landed him in a little bit of hot water. And not just hot water on the right, hot water from basketball fans around the world, hot water from people on the left side of the aisle. It was an oddly galvanizing moment of controversy brought about by the most unlikely protagonist in LeBron James, who, as we all know, is a noted Democrat supporter and leftist figure. But his comments on Hong Kong really lit a powder keg. But then the right-wing media took it just a little too far. In the days after his Hong Kong comments, the NBA season was starting up, and the Daily Caller actually tweeted out a video of LeBron James at the beginning of their season opener. He plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. For those of you who don't know, they opened their season in a highly anticipated game against the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, for those of you who are maybe not followers of basketball very often, this is a very intense rivalry. And it showed, because at the end of the national anthem, it showed LeBron James ripping his warm-up off and yelling at no one in particular, just yelling "Let's go" at the crowd, just trying to get everybody hyped up. Now, what was the caption that the Daily Caller decided to go with? It was just a simple one-sentence phrase: LeBron James disrespects the national anthem. Now, obviously, this headline accompanied with that video, it touched off a firestorm among people who were already irate with him over his Hong Kong comments. And some people were even trying to link his behavior in the video to maybe some sort of nationalist response, either pro-China or against the United States. And it ended up just becoming a snowball effect of people calling out James even further for perceived behavior that just kind of tacked on to his Hong Kong comments. But as we can see later, that maybe wasn't really the case at all. Now, while some people will always hold the stance that you should be quiet and respectful and still until the very last breath of the national anthem has been played, let's be honest, in the real world, when you get to the last line of the song, usually you have crowds start cheering, players start jumping around, getting hyped up, that sort of thing. It's a very common occurrence. Even here in Military City, USA, at the end of the national anthem before a San Antonio Spurs game, people get a little hyped up. Now, longtime basketball fans will recall that LeBron James's pregame routine was exactly like this, going back to his Cleveland Cavaliers days, going back to even his Miami Heat days. You can go back and find video of him on YouTube right now doing the exact same thing at the exact same moment of time in the national anthem. So it was a little misleading for the Daily Caller to put out a tweet with no context whatsoever to make it seem like LeBron James was just walking around in the very middle of the national anthem while everybody else is being quiet and just disrespecting it of his own accord. It was super disheartening that the Daily Caller chose to couch it in that manner, because it wasn't necessary. What it did is it took the focus off of legitimate criticism for LeBron James's comments on Hong Kong and instead put it on something so trivial and minor and benign and something that had nothing to do with politics whatsoever. And what it allowed it to do, it allowed people who had kind of galvanized in criticizing LeBron James over Hong Kong, it allowed those who were more sympathetic towards him, maybe those who were already on the left to begin with, to look at further criticism, especially coming from the right side of the aisle, over something that was relatively inconsequential, and kind of dismiss any further criticism on the grounds that, oh, they're just looking at something to get mad at him at. That is the danger of fake news. Now, a rejoinder, and it's a shame that I have to do this, but neither myself nor Damani or anyone in our households are LeBron James fans. We just aren't. We're fans of the San Antonio Spurs, which I realize with our head coach being Greg Popovich opens up a whole separate set of worms. But let's just leave it that we are quite proud of our Spurs fandom, and we are also fiercely proud of the fact that our team has a winning record against LeBron in the NBA Finals all time. It's not really a question of do we support LeBron James or do we actively oppose LeBron James. It's a matter of taking every news story with a grain of salt and understanding the consequences of misinterpreting or actively misleading someone just because you have a political bone to pick with them. Now, too often, the right side of the aisle is the victim of these fake news narratives. But if we're going to stop the cycle, at some point we have to be willing to be just as vociferous and calling out the same type of behavior when it comes from people that we normally support. So my question to the tribe is this: are we going to be a part of perpetuating the cycle, or are we going to stop it in its tracks? Let's decide that now before we end up becoming that which we've all decided we hate. As always, thanks y'all for watching the video. Let me know what you have to think. Do you think we're off base when it comes to the LeBron James stuff? Do you think maybe the news media treated the al-Baghdadi story the exact same way they did Obama killing Osama Bin Laden? How about you drop us a comment and let us know whether you agree or disagree. Make your argument. We're more than happy to listen to any and all critiques that come our way. We love interacting with y'all. So for me and for Damani, thanks and gig 'em.
The first revolution is when you change your mind about how you look at things and see that there might be another way to look at it that you have not been shown. The revolution will not be televised, and be no rerun, brothers and sisters. The revolution will be live.